Hi, I'm Luke. Today on Out of Darts, we are going to review our workhorse 3D printer, the Prusa i3 Mark III S Plus. Let's get going. For those of you just checking out this channel, I run a Nerf mod hobby shop called Out of Darts. We do 3D printed designs, parts, tools, supplies, accessories to modify your blaster arsenal. You may have also seen us over on 3D Printing Nerd or on Prusa Live back in July of 2020, or possibly on the Verge article. All of those are down linked in the description below if you want to check out those videos and articles. I think 3D printing is really amazing and I love sharing this information. And that's why we made this review. Because we have so many of these printers and we print so much with them, I think we've got valuable insights that might be helpful for other farm operators and for other hobbyists. I've been running this YouTube channel and this Nerf mod business for about 5.5 years now. And we didn't start with Prusa printers, but once we got our first Mark III, we didn't look back. As far as I'm aware, we run the largest Prusa print farm outside of Prusa themselves over in the Czech Republic. Running a 3D printing farm has been a really challenging task over the past years. The initial task was just keeping up with running them myself because I was answering emails, running the business, sourcing new products, buying, doing all the purchasing, inventory, and designing and printing and doing everything. As we've grown the team, it's really become about the uptime and keeping the printers not only busy by designing products at the right pace to actually be able to sell things, but also to keep them up and operational and, keep ahead of repairs. It's a fine line between having too much labor and too little labor, and at times we've been completely slammed. There was one time when we were at about 36 printers, we actually backed up our print queue to about 4 months. We had one product that just went crazy, and we were 4 months backlogged and could not get more printers and space and electricity fast enough. And the challenges are kind of part of the game, and it's been a really enjoyable time. I think 3D printing is just an amazing technology, and there's a lot of opportunity because 7 years ago I knew nothing about 3D printing other than it was basically FDM was a hot glue gun equivalent. That's all I knew 7 years ago, and now we're running this. And I knew nothing about design at that point either, so I think 3D printing is a great way in for someone to start in product design or creating a product and building a brand, and I love that it's so accessible. I want to mention this is absolutely not a sponsored review. However, the link for Prusa printers down below to buy one, if you do want to buy one, is an affiliate link, so please keep that in mind. I have never used an affiliate link on my entire channel. This is the very first time, so we'll see how that goes. But I'm not making this review to make money. Prusa is a very valued partner, and we have a lot of their printers, so we're pretty heavily invested and very happy overall with how things are going. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty details of the bed size, the print temps, the capabilities, because we'll put some of that up on screen here, but you can find that on their website. It's pretty common knowledge. I want to focus on insight that we can offer that's different from the other reviewers. In context of this review, it's also important to know that my experience is limited to about a dozen printer models. If you want to compare this to many other 3D printers, it's really better to watch a review from someone like Thomas Sandler or Maker's Muse or 3D Printing Nerd, Joel. But my perspective is really about running these on a farm and their reliability. I believe that 3D printers are a lot like cars. There's regular maintenance and ongoing repairs that are always going to be part of operating a printer. And when you run them commercially like we do, which is 24/7, 365 days a year, you're going to run into everything. Nozzles need changing, hot ends need replacing, belts wear out, power supplies go out, and accidents happen like blobs and extrusion issues or detached prints off beds. You name it, we've probably seen it, because when we're running close to 100 printers 24/7, you pretty much run into everything. We've even seen things fail over time that normal users would never see. Things that the forums will say, oh, that never burns out, that's a lifetime product, such as a stepper motor. We've seen one of those go out. That said, that's not a criticism, because running printers for 5 years straight, and one little part on 1 in 10 printers goes out is a pretty negligible amount of repair costs. We have 2 print techs that do most of the printer maintenance and operation. When I started the business, obviously I did all of that. I ran all of the printers up until we had about 26 or 28 printers, and at that point I hired on my first tech, who really over a year and a half took over that role, and now has been with us a couple years taking care of managing the printers in the farm. We use a software called Notion. We actually log every single error that happens with each print, and we log it by what type of filament it happened with, what file it was, what G-code, and what printer number. This allows us to kind of track and see if there are any underlying issues that are happening with specific printers. Here in-house, we primarily print in PLA and PETG, though we'll occasionally do a polycarbonate blend. PLA and PETG are generally a lot easier on your printers due to the lower temps. You're not going to see as many components wear out, melt, and get damaged. And PLA is also pretty non-abrasive, so the nozzles last a very long time. We probably get 6 months to a year or more on nozzles generally, but it really varies for sometimes no apparent reason. With those filaments, we print from 4 primary brands, including Atomic, Hatchbox, Prusa, and Protopasta. Now, we recently did a video about Protopasta. We are in the process of switching all of our filament over to Protopasta, mostly for supply chain reliability and environmental costs, because they're local to us, so we're actually able to return the spools, the boxes. We don't have to have any freight or shipping or additional packaging materials. So we really get to lower our waste footprint because the plastic spools really can't get recycled. We've stuck with this limited sort of 4 or 5 brands throughout the time we've printed, because when you're printing at scale, you really need something that's going to reliably print the same every single time with the same settings across all the different printers. And you can't be tweaking, you know, if you're going to print hundreds of a file, you can't be constantly dealing with tweaking and changing for different filament brands and trying to track that. So we've kept things pretty simple. We set our sort of base profile, which is really based on Prusa Slicer. We slice everything in Prusa Slicer, and we try to keep up to date there. We have minor tweaks here and there as far as bed temps and operational temps. We generally run our beds at about 67, and we run the nozzles at about 220. And we found that to be most reliable for the majority of our PLA printing. So the printer itself comes in 2 forms. You can buy it as a kit. The kit comes for about $750, and you can expect to spend anywhere from 6 to 10 hours putting that together. I make each of my print techs and employees, as they start working with the printers, build one, and that way they have a good understanding of how the printer has gone together. That said, I only built one of these personally. The rest of them we bought pre-assembled because the time and labor equation really made sense to just do it that way. The fully built kits are $999, so it is more expensive, but when you figure it's going to take someone 8 or 10 hours to assemble, it was just easier for us to get up and running as quickly as possible. Since we are a small, startup business, it was important to keep people on the other tasks in the business rather than bog us down in 20 or 30 printers show up and we have a month worth of work for a person to get them all assembled and up and running. I highly recommend the kit as your first printer. If you're going to buy a printer, you need to know how to fix it. There's just no way around that. No printer is perfect. All printers will eventually have parts that need replacing, or you might get a hot end jam or something. And the more you know about the actual printer itself, the better your experience is going to be. One of the biggest reasons we chose Prusa is Prusa's development of the slicer. Slicer Prusa Edition is hands down the best slicer we've used. The others just really don't compare. And there's nothing wrong with the other slicers, it's just Prusa is controlling the filament, the slicer, and the printer. And when you do all 3 in tandem, you are controlling everything end to end, and they can ensure that you're going to get really, really solid results. And they've also committed really heavily to the development and improvement. It seems like every month there's a new feature coming out, and they're really listening to their customers, and I think that's fantastic. We used to use Simplify 3D, but Simplify 3D didn't see the updates as frequently, partially due to their business model of not being really subscription-based or anything like that. The revenue stream makes it hard to keep developing a piece of software like that. Ultimately, Simplify 3D kind of fell behind because it has to support hundreds of different printers, whereas Prusa Slicer Edition is really just about supporting their printers. The the 3 models they essentially have, plus the multi-material unit. In running our farm, we're currently still running everything off of SD cards. We're waiting for Prusa Control or Prusa software that's coming out, and we are going to be beta testing that as well, hopefully, and kind of figuring out a better way to manage the fleet. So we're definitely looking at a way to improve that, but currently we're still just copying SD cards. We have about 500 G-code files that we are frequently printing due to a variety of different spacings and sizes and different parts. It's everything from little tiny internal parts to large add-ons to blasters, to complete blasters like this one here. Another huge advantage of the Prusa system and kind of getting into their ecosystem is that there is a lot of community support. Both the Prusa forums and just all over online, there's a large community of people that have these printers or have clones of these printers, and it makes it a lot easier than finding support for a more obscure printer. When I purchased my first 3D printer, it was the FlashForge Creator Pro, and at the time it was, top reviewed and it was the #1 on Amazon. But what we found after is that there really wasn't much of a community, so when you had a problem, you kind of had to only go to the company. You couldn't just Google and find a knowledge base where you'd find a great answer to your problem. And that's problematic, ultimately. With the Prusa system, there are more than 100,000 of these printers out there. They have an avid fan base. It really makes it a lot simpler to find solutions to common problems. Now that said, there are times when you're going to have to talk to support, especially at the scale we do, because we run into those weird issues that don't show up on the forums, aren't in the manual, that sort of thing. And that's one spot where I do feel like Prusa has let us down over the last few years, is that the support chat can be fairly long wait, and it can be at times for our knowledge base, it's a little frustrating because we've gotten on there and we've done, we ask questions and we're getting kind of level 0 or level 1 support where they start with, this isn't a literal quote, but it's like, have you tried turning it off and on again? Have you checked the thermistor? Have you done, and going through all the things that we've already done. Prusa has definitely gotten better about that over the past few months, but support is definitely one thing that you want to keep in mind when you're buying a printer. That said, it still leagues above some of the support I've got from some of the Chinese printers that I've purchased, and where it's basically non-existent, or they're helpful, they want to send you a new printer, but they don't give you a way to fix the one you've got. So that's been my biggest downside to Prusa, has been the support. But as I said, I know they are working on trying to improve that, and they've definitely helped us out more recently. Again, the knowledge base is fantastic. The documentation and assembly and guidelines and database on their website is fantastic. Prusaprinters.org is also a great place to find really well-designed, verified G-code and STLs that won't break your printer, and it's a good alternative to things like Thingiverse, and it's kind of stuff's tuned and designed right for your printer from the start. The Mk3 S Plus is by far the best version of this they've made. They've solved a lot of issues that I had and complaints and gripes I had in the past, such as the older filament sensor didn't work very well. It had a ball bearing and it tended to fail and not function properly. We had more issues with the old hot ends and cooling. We also had min-temp errors and other issues that kept commonly popping up. But on the current version, it is the most stable it's ever been, which is why I think this is still a very big contender in the 3D printing space, even given its premium price point and the fact that it's been out so long. One of those things you'll notice as far as the printer itself, the screen is going to feel pretty clunky and dated compared to some alternatives that are out there. A lot of printers in this price point have custom LCDs that have touchscreen and render previews and all of that. Even the Prusa Mini has a better screen than the Mk3. That said, it really doesn't slow us up or change our workflow that much in a commercial setting for printing and running a print farm. Scrolling through the menus really doesn't take that much time out of our day, and we ultimately think that we will be controlling these remotely once the software has been settled out and enabled. One of the best parts about the i3 ecosystem is that you can print all of the 3D printed parts. And all of you probably know this already, but all these parts are printed out of PETG. All the files are available online. Prusa even has the pre-sliced G-code for these printers, so you can download the G-code. You don't even need to slice it, and you can just hit print. It's really nice to be able to replace parts that get damaged or wear out. Though in reality, those are pretty limited. It's occasional extruder housing we've seen needing replacing, and we've replaced things like upgrading the fan shroud to the newer design, and we've replaced the actual fan shroud probably the most frequently, because if you get a blob or something that grabs that, that can cause the shroud to be damaged. But the nice thing is, you know, you're printing a part that costs you 20 cents or something, and it's really quick and easy to get back up and running. On the note of running, these printers have run for an absurd amount of time. Now, there's some question as to how accurate the time meters are on these, but this one claims 840 days. It's on the most current firmware. This printer is about 4+ years old, I believe. It's from when the i3 Mk3 first came out, so that's probably about accurate. I assume that's on time rather than SD card time. There was a bit of a debate online as to what it was, but suffice it to say, these printers, the majority of them have been running for 3+ years, 4 years, some of them, and they've been running 24/7. And especially in the beginning when we were running out of my garage and it was really small, scrappy startup, like I was getting up and running these at 2 a.m. so that they were running 24/7, just constantly running. And as much as, you know, when you do have to replace something, it's like, oh darn, I have to replace something, but it's pretty minor. Of our 67 Mk3s, I think we've replaced 2 power supplies. We've replaced normal things like nozzles. I think we replaced 1 belt. It's really pretty minor overall. The most common things that we're replacing are the heat break and the heat throat and the nozzles. And mostly that will happen if we get a bad blob up overnight. So really, from a reliability standpoint, they're very excellent. The other feature that we love, 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 and is absolutely essential for what we do are these flexible spring steel PEI sheets. Not only does PETG and PLA stick to this really perfectly for good adhesion, but it makes it really fast for operators to pop the parts off of the print. And in the case of some prints, they can be a little more stubborn than others. And on other printers, you might actually break things getting them off of the bed. This also gives you the option to do different textures, though we primarily print in the smooth sheet because PLA adheres best to smooth. While if you're going to do the textured sheet, I'd really probably go with PETG because it sticks a little better. So to kind of wrap all of this up, I think these printers are really reliable. They have rock solid parts, a really phenomenal knowledge base, and a massive market share. And it's for good reason. I think they're very good printers. Now the Prusa Mini, I have to say, I would not give that same review, and I will be doing a review on that coming up on the channel. So hit the subscribe button if you want to see that. We actually recently went through an overhaul. We got rid of 41 Prusa Mini printers and we're replacing them with Mk3s. We just didn't find them to operate as well in our commercial print farm environment. We had hoped that was going to be the case, but it just really wasn't. So we're going back to just Mk3s, keeping a single printer brand and unit across the entire print farm. The print bed is really medium size. It's not large, it's not small, so keep that in mind if you're looking for a printer. That's obviously always an important factor, but we designed basically with these printers in mind as sort of a in-house limitation. We will look at getting maybe an XL or some other large CR10 printer or something for larger stuff if I've got a specific design that needs it, but right now this sort of medium-sized print bed really does fit our needs well. Another potential con is the price. At $1,000, it's far from the cheapest printer, but my experience has been with CR10s and with FlashForge and with Cheedy, most of those printers have taken me more time and effort to set up, manage, repair, and we just really we've seen the value in spending more money to get the genuine thing. And on that note, we even have now stopped buying any knockoff or third-party parts. We just buy the authentic E3D parts or the parts straight from Prusa, because every time we put in a non-authentic or a third-party part, because this is an open source system, we just run into more and more issues. And ultimately, when you've got a business that's running on it and you've got repair labor and maintenance and lost revenue from not being able to print when a printer is down, it makes sense for us to have reliable printers that print all the time and work day in, day out and take care of us. At the end of the day, I give this printer in its current form a 5 out of 5 stars, and I am 100% confident of that review. I have spent over $120,000 as a business with Prusa, and we are still buying more of these printers. We are voting with our dollars more than anything. I hope this review has been insightful and helpful. If you're interested in more content on 3D printing and running a farm. I'll have some links down in the description to Joel's tour from 3D Printing Nerd and anything else we come up with in the future. Again, if you are purchasing a printer, I do have an affiliate link in the description. First time I'm trying that, so we'll see how that goes again. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, I'm out of darts.